So let us give a warm welcome to Sudhir Kakar. He will be giving a presentation on emotional transformation. So let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Bryce, all the monastic people who have come here, the students, for being here, and I hope I can contribute at least something for you. I'm going to talk about emotional transformation, learnings from Buddhism and psychoanalysis. My effort really is what can both learn from each other. So I'm going to talk a little about that. In 1994, I was honored with an invitation from the Foundation for Universal Responsibility, the foundation set up by His Holiness, for having a dialogue with him in New Delhi. The subject of the dialogue was Buddhist and Western psychology, and I, as a psychoanalyst, was asked to represent the viewpoint of Western psychology. What I remember most vividly about the dialogue was an exchange when the topic of hatred came up. I gave the orthodox psychoanalytic view: there is something wrong with the person if he cannot hate. There's also something wrong if the person cannot stop hating. A mature person should be capable of hating, but also capable of transcending hatred. No, no, His Holiness exclaimed. This is not true of Buddhist psychology at all. He then proceeded to tell the story, which I'm sure you all know. But I'll still tell it again because this story is important for where I'm going to go later on. So the story he told, of course, was about his friend, a spiritually advanced Lama who was incarcerated in a prison by the Chinese. After many years, he managed to escape and reach Dharamshala. How was it, His Holiness asked his friend, about his long years of imprisonment? Oh, twice it was very bad, he replied. Were you in danger of losing your life? No, twice I almost hated the Chinese. What impressed me that day and has stayed with me over the years is His Holiness pointing out the transformative possibilities of the human psyche, of total compassion without a trace of hate, selflessness carved out of the psyche's normal self-centeredness, a fearlessness that is not a counterphobic reaction to the fear that is an innate part of the human psyche. This was a challenge to the core of psychoanalytic enterprise, a challenge which I also seek to address in my brief talk today. How does psychoanalysis foster transformation, and what can it learn from Buddhist psychology and vice versa? To explore this question in this short presentation, I must explain or state at least the two basic postulates of psychoanalysis which are common to all the psychoanalytic schools that have proliferated after Freud in the more than 100 years. The first is the major role of the unconscious part of the mind which it plays in our mental life. And the second one is the crucial importance of childhood experiences and our early relationships in the formation of our psyche. First, the unconscious and the conscious. Most of our mental life, perhaps as much if not more than 95%, is unconscious. Hidden from our consciousness, which has little or no insight into the motivations that underlie our wishes and actions. We often afterwards find the causes for our actions and give reasons for our motivations. So reasons come very often afterwards. Many neuroscience experiments have indicated that the brain processes information much faster than conscious awareness can keep track of it, so that countless mental operations run, as one says when talk of a car, under the hood of in the engine, unseen by the conscious mind in the driving seat. These are times producers of great emotion when our conscious and unconscious minds are in conflict. when what we unconsciously wish is not what we consciously want, or where the fear is at the same time a hidden wish. Another related psychoanalytic postulate that past events of which we have no conscious memory influence our current behavior, as also stimuli not registered by our conscious part of the mind, has also received ample support from the neurosciences. Let us take the case of a 23-year-old man who suffered a traumatic shock when the basement of his house caught fire. The man was so disturbed at the first sight of the fire that he lost all his personal memories. He could read, write, speak normally, knew who the Prime Minister of the country was, but had no access to his own past, to his own biography. Stimulation of the corresponding memory center in the brain revealed that the root cause of his illness lay in the past. As a 4-year-old boy, he had seen a man burned to death in his car. The boy had stood at the side of the road with his mother. He had watched the driver scream and beat his fists against the rolled-up windows in a vain effort to escape the burning vehicle. Since then, his association with fire was of mortal danger. The fire in his house had reactivated this early trauma. Now, traumatic memories, even the unconscious ones, do not have to be real, but can be what psychoanalysis calls fantasy, imaginary, possessing what is called a psychic reality. In other words, psychologically, what is important is not what happened to us, but what we believe or imagine has happened. We know from current neurobiological research on memory that different regions of the brain become active, the neurons start firing, depending on whether we are remembering a real event or imagining one, or lying about one. The thing to remember is that if we believe the event occurred, even when it did not, then the same region of the brain is activated as in case of actual memories. The second fundamental postulate of psychoanalysis emphasizes the importance of early childhood experiences on personality formation and adult behavior. Now, communication and interaction in the process of growing up form the brain, or if you want to be more exact, as you said in the morning, it's software. The newborn brings a good deal of structure into the world, namely the brain's hardware and its operating system. But which software is installed is determined by the infant's surrounding culture, conveyed first through the mother and the family. Remember that an infant's brain is creating 1.8 million neural connections per second. And the crucial element here is the relationship with the mothering person and the love flowing through this connection, which wires the baby's brain. One knows from experiments also that the more a rat pup is licked and groomed by its mother, the more synaptic connections it has. The mind develops through these early interactions, just as a gene is activated through the influence of the environment. Today, it is difficult to find a developmental neurobiologist who would disagree that early childhood interactions, especially with the mothering person, shape our personality and are responsible for many of our emotional problems, for our suffering. So what are the implications of the brain research that supports psychoanalysis on the importance of early childhood experiences in personality formation? First, let me say that neither psychoanalysis nor neurosciences are wholly deterministic. Brain research does leave room for development and change in adulthood. The brain, a social and cultural organ much more than a biological one, does change with interactions with the environment in later life. Like the proverbial river one never steps into twice, one also never uses the same brain twice. At the moment, your and my brain are changing even as we are interacting here. Even if our genetic endowment were to determine 50% of our psyche and early childhood experiences another 30%, there's still a remaining 20% that changes through the rest of our lives. Although both psychoanalysis and Buddhist theories of transformation see repetitive and compulsive habits of mind as a cause for painful emotions and encourage deconditioning and fresh ways of seeing, they differ in their views on the methods to deal with painful emotions and the goal of their training or practice. Can we learn from these differences, even if they cannot be reconciled? I believe yes. Let me first take the goal of psychoanalysis. This is to lead to an outcome where the person, through an increased self-understanding by making the unconscious conscious, attains a freedom to love, work, and play, free from inhibitions her mind has gathered over the life cycle, especially from the childhood years. You can also say one of the aims of psychoanalysis is increasing a person's choices. From Buddhist perspective, I believe the pursuit of understanding can interfere with immediate connections to direct experience. It is important to note that essential to psychoanalysis is the view that the process of self-understanding, what it calls insight, of coming to know oneself, or even of attempting to do so, is the kind of satisfaction that psychoanalytic therapy has to offer. Psychological pain needs first not to be eliminated, but understood. Elimination or reduction of suffering is then a byproduct or consequence of understanding. From this perspective, depression is less like a tumor and more like a stabbing pain in your abdomen. It is telling you something and you need to find out what. The American poet Emily Dickinson captures the essence of this psychoanalytic view of dealing with painful emotions, however unwelcome they may be. I always like to quote poets because I think they are often much better than psychologists. I personally think Shakespeare was a greater psychologist than Freud, but that is my not perspective, but limitation. Okay, so Emily Dickinson, the heart cannot forget unless it contemplates what it declines. This sentiment is also echoed by the Sufi poet Rumi. Don't turn away. Keep looking at the bandaged place. That is where the light enters you. In principle, you might even end a course of psychoanalysis sadder, though wiser, more conscious of your previous unconscious responses and living in a more aware way, and still deem the experience a success. The goal is widened awareness, insight, feeling fully alive, experiencing your experience. One of the psychoanalysts says beyond, he says the goal is not only to plant, dig potatoes, cook potatoes, I want to sing potatoes. This is what would psychoanalysis, when we say happiness everyone wants, that this is what psychoanalysis would understand under happiness, which is often not defined when we talk here about what happiness is. Now, is this a sufficient goal? I believe what psychoanalysis can learn from Buddhism is the importance of compassion, caring as a goal of therapy. In other words, a successful psychoanalysis should not stop with inner freedom from emotional conflicts for the person, but goes further to develop a caring person. It will not be content with reaching the ideal of the autonomous individual, but view it as a stepping stone to the caring individual. My emphasis on the desirability of a caring, compassionate person as the outcome of psychoanalytic therapy is not because of any subscription to religious moral prescriptions or secular ideologies, but because of the nature of human reality itself. Each one of us is deeply embedded with other human beings, as also connected to animate and inanimate nature. An embeddedness that demands a caring for all that is not self for our own health and happiness. And here I'm not talking of emotional well-being and happiness, which some may consider vague categories, but also of concrete physical health. You had some examples in the morning, let me give you more. The benefits of caring behavior are so large that they even show up in improved health and longer lifespan. In a large longitudinal study from the United States, those who reported giving more help and support to spouses, friends, and relatives went on to live longer than those who gave less, whereas the amount of help that people reported receiving showed no relationship to their longevity. In other words, it is indeed more blessed to give than to receive. Since this particular study also studied the effect of specific caring actions, it might be of interest to give you some details regarding these. As you know, aspirin is often prescribed as a preventive to those at risk of heart attack. To help another person is 5 times more positive effect on your longevity than ingestion of aspirin. Just to listen to another person is still twice as good as aspirin for your survival. To witness good deeds, caring behavior gives rise to feeling of elation that are physiologically related to the rewarding release of the hormone oxytocin. In an ingenious experiment, the social psychologist Jonathan Haidt, gathering 45 nursing mothers with their infants in a psychological laboratory, where half were shown videos depicting caring behavior, while the others watched comedy videos. Almost half the mothers who were shown the morally uplifting video showed increased milk flow or nursed their babies after watching the video, while only very few mothers did so after watching the comedians. The first group also turned towards their babies more, touching them and clasping them to their breasts. Haidt comments that the effect was one of the biggest I ever saw. Other experiments have demonstrated the presence of caring behavior in children as young as 18 months and even in 2 to 3-year-old chimpanzees who spontaneously help a familiar adult who appears in some distress. Indeed, the Buddhist emphasis on compassion can even be of help in the training of psychotherapists. In psychoanalysis, empathy is a core requirement for the intending analyst, the chief tool for gathering data for understanding the patient. Tolerance and compassion are the precursors to empathy, and we can fruitfully look to Buddhist and other spiritual traditions for pointers in their cultivation. Indeed, it is odd that aspiring psychoanalysts have often only heard about but have no personal experience of one of the profession's chief requirements, listening to the client with free-floating, evenly hovering attention, which each analyst picks up more or less informally and unsupervised on his own. Such an experience, missing from the psychoanalytic training programs, could be easily provided through a short 4 to 5 day meditation workshop, such as that of Vipassana. The analyst who has experienced this mode of meditation is likely to listen to her patient differently. She is likely to be more attuned to subtle, emerging twinges of fear, sadness, or helplessness. Such an analyst is also able to hold these feelings longer and more deeply without reaching for the reassuring effort to organize and interpret. This brings me to the much more difficult issue, whether Buddhist and psychoanalytic methods of transforming emotions can be reconciled. Here my answer is a qualified no. In psychoanalytic therapy, one seeks access to the client's unconscious through methods as free associations, that is saying whatever comes to the mind, paying attention to the client's slips of the tongue, hesitations, dreams, fantasies, and to what is going on unconsciously between the client and the therapist. Language and words play an important, though not an exclusive role in psychoanalytic therapy. 5 minutes. Okay. I will finish. From Buddhist perspective and its emphasis on direct experience, language and words distract us from direct experience. It creates distance from the immediacy of experience in order to do the cognitive work necessary for communication to the therapist. This disdain for language is shared by other Indic traditions. As the 16th century Indian saint Dadu puts it, the Guru speaks first with the mind, then with the glance of the eye. If the disciple fails to understand, he instructs him at last by mouth. He that understands a spoken word is a common man. He that interprets a gesture is an initiate. He that reads the thought of the mind, unsearchable, unfathomable, is a god. Here psychoanalysis diverges from Buddhism. Whereas it can heed Buddhist warnings on the limitations of language and become much more sensitive to the nuances of silence and other non-verbal communication in the therapeutic setting, psychoanalysis cannot reject the medium of language and words that has brought it such rich dividends of insight into the workings of the human mind. It can also wonder, perhaps defensively, whether the Buddhist exclusive focus on direct experience stems from an idealization of its meditative praxis. But then many psychoanalysts look upon and are proud of their tradition as a hermeneutics of suspicion and believe that many Buddhists operates in a hermeneutics of idealization. Where psychoanalysis can contribute to Buddhist practice is only perhaps by making it aware of the unconscious dynamics of the student-master relationship, of having the student become conscious of his changing transference reactions towards a teacher. Transference reactions are reactions towards significant figures from one's early life, which are now unconsciously projected onto the teacher. These reactions can range from intense idealization, once directed towards a parent in service of raising one's own self-esteem. You are great, but I'm a part of you. An intense need for closeness and intimacy, including sexual one, to surges of anger and depressive effects when these needs are thwarted. Similarly, the teacher too may have many unconscious, what is called counter-transference reactions towards the student, arising out of issues in his or her own life, of which he needs to be aware. He also needs to be conscious of the psychological danger posed by the massive idealization of his students, a danger which increases with one's prominence as a teacher. Negative transferences, negative feelings, and malignant projections are easier to handle, since they cause severe psychic discomfort, compelling us to reject them by discriminating inside between what belongs to us and what other students, etc., are projecting onto us. This painful motivation for repelling the invasion of the self by others does not exist when such projections are very narcissistically gratifying, as they are invariably in case of adoring students. It is difficult not to at least smell the incense smoke being burnt at your altar by many proclaiming your greatness. At the end, psychoanalysis will also say that transformation of emotions is not once forever achievement, even in case of enlightened masters. It remains constantly under threat from the darker forces of the psyche. One is never not human. Twice I almost hated the Chinese. Thank you.
Sudhir, thank you for that wonderful talk. We have a few minutes for questions. Let's start over here with the monastic graduates.
ene jig chalong le chong de ngone chan ni ga lo pa ma de ge jam che ge jang de wa ji kwa yin ba ga yi la bu ni ga ji shi ga da ga ji to man ra cha de wa de ne yong de do ene chung chung gan ko rang shi ka shi ne ji shi ga jam bo da ne ji le bo ne ri kwa do ji na ya ko che ka shi ne de ga ji le mi do ene ko chang je pa ma ki chang je jang dang da de ne ko le 지바 지자래 대와 된데 아니 지시가다 릭바 야려다 이제 간지 돌을 삼로 땅땅 된데 자체로 뭐 용도 아 된서 간데 레기야 나스
So you talk about the importance of early childhood development for mental health. For regarding that particular topic, I would like to ask one question. Based on my experience, I have seen that the children from same parents, even though there is no bias or the difference from the parents towards the children in terms of their love and caring, but the behavior of children are never the same. Sometimes if one is a well-behaved child, then other one turns into something a little bit naughty. Since the childhood development to some extent is similar, so why would be a very different result in this case?
No childhood is ever the same. Even within the same family, even with twins, it won't be the same. First of all, each infant comes somewhat differently in it. Some child is more active, some is closer, who encourages the parent to give more attention to it or less attention to it. It would also depend on the parent, the first child, whether it is welcome or not, whether the second, how much welcome it is. The parent is much more anxious, maybe one parent with the first child, not so anxious with the second because you're used to it. So the amount of caring or what is done, outside it may look similar, that yes, the amount of food, etc. may be the same. But the emotional interaction between a parent and the children within the same family will also differ. Of course, it differs with gender. Obviously, that is one of the difference. But it would also differ whether the older child, younger child, how active the child is, how open the child is for asking for him, what is the child caring. So it is never really the same. So there would always be differences.
다 디와딜라 아니 단다 눕조기 심감릭보 저기 아니 랭카르게 그리슬라빈베나 제가 아니 낭미직을 계획에 부기 임베임베나 아니 가두임베나 부니디 당보지두 코라네 직바자원인 용탑이요 말레스 대가능시 아니 부니디 찬다베게 세마 아이덴티컬 튠스도 하고도 찬다베게 세마 임베임베나야 아니 공니지두 코라네 직바요 말레스 코라 랑신 토네 지두 코라네 아니 가시 아니 지게 다 파메키 야레 망보고데니 가시 아니 파메키 야렌시다 모고니 딘디리기 용겨레스 디 아니 부 코란케 랑신 토네 안 당봉네 만다요 되와 지체 니와델라 아니 파메기 아니 부라 지칼라데야 그소로다 골로요야 그소로 딘조 자베크텐 직바 임베나 부니라 파메기 아니 야렌치다디 가두 임베나 자와니네 용야요 마레스 아니 직부 ngaje shor debe kapsla chewa yores pu thangbo de level kapsla phama du pu thoma thangbo imba sonza ani ji ngang ma yoya ani pu de ngubi imbena de la ani yale ma che ta bu niwa da sumba che ni sambala phama du theplu cha che ani ngone kyen shida mes this nguju samye kita kumchi de thone khanda manda ani khala da chi tinggen chan chigba imbena semjuru thone yalen che dan di ani pu ni la nangmi chi de be imbena zawani ne namya chigba yongthab yo mares che da dile du sambala khuryu da ani 차진 컨디션 집임베나 직버직장 세기 아니 부기 살롱치당 용하여 말이스 용하 매베 그 좀들 때니 아니 부직버직장 세야인데 아니 시가다 아니 저박 돈에 용하여 말이스
Let me add one sentence. Psychoanalysis is very similar to Buddhism in saying it is the karma of previous life, which is also influencing you now. Except what it says is that your previous life is your forgotten early childhood. That is your previous life, which is it. The karma from that is coming, not the karma from a life before that, but karma from your forgotten early childhood. So in that sense, it is saying the same. It is only making a difference is what is the previous life. It's a forgotten life, but not life before, but your early childhood life.
대가나시 아니 단다 심감릭보 와수기 칼라기르슬라빈베나 아니 부gut dinsu changme ki ani kewangme ki ani le ki ani chadiyan logares sigires cheta di nangbe ki kejan shidan rowas nangbe ki kewangme ma sedu samba khayores lagiyores labinbena ani thanda kewa di ki ngol ani chungdebe ki ani kewa dinsul kewangme ma sigiyores cheta thanda ani jiksamgam rikbe nanglo kewangme ma sedu samba la kirang ki thanda ani them mathobya 아니 키랑 베데 춘주 시우지 갑슬라 아니 중대에 키니주 탄다 테마도 비든 조디 아니 키랑 카르차기 요르슬라비메나 아니 키랑 부디 셀티비메나 개왕마 차도 요르스 제가다 디네 중대베기 레기 박자 시기네 디갑 테데베기 아니 용마 된수기 박자 그 균데 키랑 용마디 테마도 비메나 탄다 하디 요르스 하비 금전데네 부든주 만다 차도 요르스
ngala joati takarinsin ani tada tanu so semko ripa si tani tada chiung do ani tik tada ti tanganzo tada sinam do tik thani ti nganzo da nombe chujong ni phala ta songa ke tani thani chi dong tani semko ripi ke tada ti tani yung yori to yung yo maresira jowa che ti tani jowa ni ba ti ta semko juju sinam do semko ta je dong tik thoni teni nga chota nombe ke ngeni sina ta ji soso so ma di ba da jin jong de yo na ta ti ta ji se dong da ti ji ta de li yen ba ke chu gong yo wa he le mi ba zi jin de de no ni ni hen ni de han tong gong ya teni hi ba rong wa su ya wa se wa no yi ta ji ta no ji yo wa de li yen de jo wa teni no so sen ko ri ba la ta sen ta ji se dong de ju se song da ji yo ri de yo ma ri se ra de ma yi ba nga so che dong ke ta ji sen 단지 라용도 있더니 소소를 초 마디바지 요나 다티 단지 와디 당아티 저희는 저거 도 가롱을 다 초 동한다 진정 용도 소니 용자 대완다 어떤 차나 고센 단지 세월이 마질이 가완다 다든지 진정도 시라 딘드더니 따고 농비기 추종이 희와리 라차지 노소 생권이 발라 센 단지 세동도 주지 세동 티라 미사게 디기시에 요르웨스
First part of my question is when you talk about Western psychology or Western psychoanalysis, the ideas or the theories that you have in psychoanalysis in the West, is it born in West or is it taken from East, like Buddhist ideas and other Eastern traditions? And that is the first part of the question.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand. Whether it is...
Is it born in the West itself or originated in the West itself, or is it to some extent borrowed from Buddhism and other Eastern traditions? That is the first part of the question. And the second part of the question, in Buddhist tradition, when we talk about regulating and transforming emotions, we talk about the importance of meditations. We talk about vipassana, and through vipassana we get this calm abiding order, this shamatha states, and achievement of shamatha is considered as the achievement of regulating and transforming your emotions. So, and then there are also like methods of transforming and regulating emotions in the Western psychoanalysis. So if you, since you have knowledge of both of these, if you compare these two methods, which one has more kind of benefits, or which one is better, or that kind of thing?
Let me first say that psychoanalysis or psychoanalysts have had a great interest in Buddhism. In fact, Buddhism is the only Eastern psychological methods where psychoanalysts have their books right from many, many years. They're not interested in Hindu methods, etc. Buddhism has always been of interest to them. I've always wondered why. I think one of the reasons is the similarity. Psychoanalysis differs from other Western psychological methods of what we were talking of regulating pain, of not looking for any distraction, not looking for anything, go into the pain, contemplate your pain, that is, contemplate your suffering, go through the suffering and then maybe come out on the other side through an understanding which would lessen it, but not to take it away. So it is contemplation rather than meditation, but it is still going in, which is important. And the method of psychoanalysis of free-flowing attention, and also the psychoanalyst is also supposed not to focus on anything, just be completely free, whatever is coming to the mind, which is very similar to the meditation method. So in fact, I would call psychoanalysis a meditation of two persons. It's a two-person meditation and a different. So there are some kind of similarities. Now, whether it comes from
당보디레스 탄다 아니 제단 아니 탄다 노브조키 아니 심금 지십시에 또다 사이코애널리시스에 딕낭로 dinzuki ani shungluk dinzuk nanglo la jinshi ki igje dinzuk nanglo la ani nangju dan dewa yodang da nangju nanglo la karshi gi yeba dinzu ani te mangbu ti yores ni mo tiga nangshi nangju ki ani shedang dinzu la thona chingi mangbu chung yores di ma do ji hindu ki shung dinzu nanglo karshi sha kunzu ki ani samgam cheba chidang khande sha se dinde ani peje thona yo mares di thona me wa di khari na sam dinde nga yung yus namgu 직지나 아니 지가 누조기 탄다 아니 심금 제바 치단디다 나주기 심금 제바 치단 디니니 심금 따 당진다 주주 치단 디토라 아니 다외 차 망보 여외 김진 때네 아니 중 인시그레스
Whether it comes from Buddhism, I don't think so. Unless like Freud was a reincarnated Buddhist, that is always a possibility. But otherwise, a direct one, I don't think so. That there is.
이나야 아니 탄다 누조기 심금 지십 그 나로라 셰데위키 아니 계제든조 아니 낭주니 추 타르바르베스 낭주니 추 용교르베스라나 페제데 테가드네 차요 마레스 이나다 누조기 탄다 아니 심금 지십 버든조 산지 그 두어드네 이 초로와스 딘데 이나다 유네 아니 산지 그 추 차데 이르마도 아니 원스 아니 드네 파 도데오드네 중요 마레스 삼그두스
Let's maybe hear from over here. Geshe-la or Matthew, do you might have a question for Sudhir or a comment?
My one question I have concerns psychoanalysis in particular. Are any particular experiences considered more harmful or more helpful than others? Is there kind of a hierarchy in thinking about experience and emotions per se, whether it happened when a person was a child or in the current state?
아니 단다기라 호랑기 티와시쿠소 티와디 아니 카르쿠스라빈베나 아니 지금 춘춘 갑슬라 아니 심 기뇽조르단 데와 유케 게망고 테시로 네다 망고 테시로 니주그 낭로네 아니 지금 디테빈베나 쫑체슈 요레스 네다 딜라 겐 디테빈베나 강게 체슈 요레스 야 딘데키 아니 페치라부데 레시아 요르베스
Only according to the life stage, that the earliest infant childhood, when the brain is being developed, when your software is formed, those are much more vulnerable years than the later ones. So the earlier the harmful experience is harmful. So even a small harmful experience early is much more harmful than one it would be later.
제자다 부구디 아니 로카주스 충빈빈나 디 갑슬라 아니 강년 테빈빈나 겐 칸테빈나 겐디기 슈진디 아니 마움발라 아니 치알하디 요레스 제자 지금 녀마도라 춘춘 갑슬라 겐 춘춘 시미시 강년 춘춘 시미시 테빈빈나 디기 슈진디 아니 자 첨부 차차베기 젤라 아니 테데베기 겐디주 슈진 테빈빈나 다 다망부케 아니 슈진 치아 용화데 용구 요레스.
Okay, this is not a question because we don't have much time, but I want to really throw this point in front of all of us, which might become one of the topic for next conference. In Buddhism, there is a clear-cut explanation that these are negative emotions, these are horrible, these are bad, these are negative, these must be eliminated. And then there is another class which is called positive emotions, which are good, which are constructive, which are healthy, which must be cultivated. Now by listening to or not just listening, but reading the modern view of emotions, there is a clear-cut explanation saying that emotions are emotions. They are not bad, not good. They are there to protect you, to save you. So now you can see the differences there. But at the same time, you will also find that even the modern psychologists or scientists, they would say that at certain level of the time, you need to categorize certain of these emotions as destructive and they must be eliminated. So the question is, what is the border where we can say these are destructive or these are constructive? Can we use it as a situational or cultural thing and there is no fixed target? This is a very important point. And then secondly, in Buddhism, there is a very rigorous exercise of not only, as I said this morning, dealing with the symptoms, but also completely eradicating the negative emotions. That's why we call these negative emotions poisons. Poisons, yes, there are occasions sometimes poisons can be used as a medicine, but generally poison, harmful. Get rid of them. So therefore, is there a method to completely eradicate them? Of course, this is what is said in Buddhism, but what are our findings, or we need to find, So these are like very interesting areas. Nge di du chik lab ko di thewas ke me. No to nangchu ni na nyomo se di tukja res. Ro no be chik res. Di tuksum res ro di pang gore sik dwa. Ta gebe rik di je pema se yak gore di khadu ina tak bu jab gore chamba de ning je so je che gore sik dwa. Ta nujo be ta ta nyongsor das ta semsor kharla go ina emotion ko je hieng du. Semsor da nyongsor singe di ko chorba na re di. Di yaga du ke je kheyo mare. Semsor dozo kharchena mil dramina yungde de kharche yungresena ko mi korang sungjob chesu du keung yores ti paru tane ne pheng du mu ta jure ma to di dugar se thaju de lawe yomare se jwa dozo ko langa to tang di lens ka go yem do nga dinga to cheba che go do se yorwa. Thank you so much. I don't need an answer right now.
No, just a not answer. I think that would be extremely interesting because one part is it would first depends of what is the goal of human life. So happiness, what does Buddhism conceive of happiness and what do others conceive of happiness? So that would also make where the emotions are going. So, and it may well be what you're saying that the positive emotions, one would say yes, but whether there are any negative emotions, one doesn't know. Whether that depends on the context. So that distinction, positive, negative also might not. But it would be very interesting to go into.